Welcome to Sportsball Roundup. Now here's your hosts, Devin and Reese.
Yes, hello, and welcome to a special edition of Sportsball Roundup. I am Devin. Joining me is my co-host, Reese. And Reese, this is a special college football bowl game preview show. And controversy is the word that comes to mind when it comes to this bowl season. The final college football rankings came out, what was it, Sunday?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it was early Sunday.
Yeah, before the noon games of the NFL. And, well, wow. I don't know. We will, I'll go from the bottom to the top. Because, like I said, the top has controversy. At number 25, we have Kansas State, who stayed at 25 and did not play in their conference championship. We have SMU, who beat Tulane to win the AAC. They're at 24. They were previously unranked. Moving up one spot at 23 is Liberty, who beat New Mexico State to go undefeated. 22, moving up one is Clemson, who didn't play in their conference championship. 21 is Tennessee, who stayed at that spot and did not play in their conference championship. Moving down two is Oklahoma State. They lost to Texas 49-21 in the Big 12 Conference Championship. Oregon State moves up 1-19, and they did not play in their conference championship. Moving up 1-18 is NC State, who didn't play in their conference championship either. Moving down just one spot again is number 17, Iowa. They lost to Michigan in the Big Ten Conference Championship 26-0. Moving up one to number 16, Notre Dame, who didn't play in their conference championship. Down 1-15 is Louisville. They lost to Florida State 16-6 in the what was that? ACC Conference Championship.
Yes, the ACC.
Moving up 1-14 is Arizona, who didn't play in their conference championship. Staying at 13, LSU did not play. 12 stayed the same at Oklahoma, who also didn't play. 11, Ole Miss didn't play. Penn State is at 10, didn't play. Missouri didn't play, and they stay at number 9. Moving down 3 spots is number 8, Oregon. They lost to Washington 34-31 in the final ever Pac-12 championship. Moving down 1 is number 7, Ohio State. They didn't play. Moving down 5 is Georgia. They lost at number 6. So Georgia is number 6. They moved down 5 spots from number 1 to number 6. They lost to Alabama 27-24 in the SEC title game. Moving down 1 and out of playoff contention is number 5, Florida State. They beat Louisville 16-6 in the ACC championship and is the only undefeated team that is a Power 5 champion and is not in the playoffs. They are the only team to have ever done that since college football playoffs began, and the only team that will ever do that because next year the playoff expansion expands to 12 teams, so this won't happen again. We'll never see that again. Hopping them and making the college football playoffs, Alabama rockets up 4 spots, number 4. They beat Georgia 27-24 in the SEC championship game. Number 3 is Texas. They beat OK State 49-21 in the Big 12 championship. They move up 4 spots to get there. Washington moves up 1 spot and takes the number 2 spot. They beat Oregon 34-31 in the Pac-12 championship. And number 1 Michigan beat Iowa 26-0 in the Big 10 championship. They move up 1 from 2-1. So your playoff final college football playoffs and rankings and the 4 teams that go to the college football playoffs are Michigan at 1, Washington at 2, Texas at 3, and Alabama at 4. And like I mentioned before, and we'll get into this in just a minute, Florida State is on the outside looking in with a perfect 13-0 record and a Power 5 champion, beating Louisville 16-6 in the ACC championship game. But before we get into and take a little deep dive into that controversy, Iowa had a chance. Because, they were on the field. They had a chance. Which is more than you can say for Oregon State or Penn State. Or not Oregon State. Ohio State and Penn State. But, at 10-3, obviously we're not getting in. But we weren't getting in. We weren't even getting in at, 11-2.
Yeah.
But that game was exactly what I thought it was going to be, Reese. I thought it was going to be closer than everybody thought. 26 points doesn't look great, but it's a lot closer than the 42-3 blowout that we had, last year?
It could have been last year.
But I remember, I think it was it was last year, the last time we played the championship game. Or was it 2 years ago? Anyway, last time Iowa faced Michigan, it was a 42-3 beatdown. And I knew it was going to be better than that, because our defense is better than that. I knew our defense was better than Ohio State's. And so I took Iowa plus, I think it was 21.5. And I would have won. I took Iowa plus 21.5, and I took the under of, I think it was like 35 or something like that. And I would have won. The only reason I didn't win, Reese, is that bogus call. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That bogus fumble call because his hand was, quote, not moving forward when the ball came out. And you want to know where that call came from, Reese?
Where?
Upstairs in the replay booth, because the call on the field was an incomplete pass. They blew the ball dead, and Michigan happened to fall on it as the whistle was blowing. And so what had happened in the replay booth is that they somehow figured out that his arm wasn't moving forward, which it clearly was, but we'll ignore that. We'll ignore that for a second. And then, because they blew the ball dead, Iowa didn't fall on it, because you're taught to play to the whistle, not beyond the whistle, or else you'll probably get flagged for unnecessary roughness or something like that. So they played to the whistle, and Michigan happened to fall on it. Therefore, Michigan took over at that part because they were the closest to the ball at the time the whistle blew. Now, I hate being a conspiracy theorist, I hate, because most of the time, dude, it's not that deep. Whatever happened, happened. But you gotta think that maybe, just maybe, they were scared that Michigan may not be able to pull it off. Because at that point in time, it was 10-0. We had passed halftime. We were in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was 10-0. Michigan was not doing what the Big Ten and the world thought they were going to do. They weren't stomping out Iowa. They were only 10 points ahead.
Yeah.
So you got to think that maybe there's something more going on behind the scenes, because you and me, I mean, obviously we're biased for Iowa, but even a blind man could have saw that his arm was clearly going forward. And maybe it was closer than we thought it was. Okay? But I don't think there was clear evidence to overturn it, because the ruling on the field was also an incomplete pass. So they would have had clear and irrefutable evidence that his arm was not moving forward, and they did not have that. Yeah, whether his arm was moving forward or not, it was too close of a position to not stick with the ruling on the field. And the ruling on the field was an incomplete pass.
Right. And I don't want to make any assumptions, but apparently the replay booth referee was the same one from Michigan
or Minnesota,
from the Minnesota game.
Oh, it was. There was a list of refs. It clearly was.
Yeah. Where they called, if you don't remember,
the invalid fair catch.
Yeah. Yep. Where the Cooper DeJean return.
It was the same ref. It was. There is no denying that. There was a list of referees which included the replay official.
And now the question is, how will the league?
They won't.
Yeah, exactly.
They won't. Because that's exactly what the Big Ten needed to happen in order for a Big Ten team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that was what I was going to get at. But yeah, exactly. They're not going to do anything. Nothing different.
Yep. They follow the money, Reese.
Yep. That's unfortunate though, but it's.
I mean, Michigan
business.
And see, that was the difference in the game. That was the turning point right there. Because after that point, Michigan got the ball at the 5-yard line, 4 or 5 yard line, and scored, obviously, because they were right there. But that was the point you could turn to where the game was broken wide open. Because Iowa was playing Michigan very tight, very tough until that point.
Yeah.
And after that point, they just gave up. They didn't play as hard, and final score was 26-0. If you take that bogus touchdown away, just that one play, I don't think they score a touchdown. They might have scored a field goal, which would put it at 22. It would have been 22-0. So yeah, I like I said, that game went exactly how I thought it was, and the refs once again screwed us out. I don't like to be that guy, Reese. I don't like to be that guy. But I also like watching a football game that is fair. I mean, say what you will, that game was not officiated correctly.
Yeah.
And so Michigan moves into number 1 because of that. And so now we've got to talk about the other controversy that Florida State, with a perfect 13-0 record and a Power 5 championship underneath their belt, is out of the playoffs in favor of a 12-1 Alabama, who is an SEC champion. The main reason why Florida State is not in, the one the committee gave as the major reason, is because Florida State star quarterback is injured and is out. That's the main reason they gave. And Ohio State, in years past, has had a third-string quarterback carry them to the playoffs. And I think it's bogus. I think that message that the College Football Playoffs Committee sent was the wrong message. I think the message they sent was, it does not matter what happens in the regular season. If your conference is good enough, it doesn't matter what happens. As long as you're the conference champion at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the regular season shows. All that matters is you're the best of a good conference. And it also sends the message that, everything rides on the health of your players. If you win out, but your player isn't healthy, sorry, you're not getting in. It doesn't matter that you can beat a team with a second string or third string quarterback. Doesn't matter. Your starter's out, so your hopes are gone. It doesn't matter how deep your bench is. It doesn't matter the talent on your team at other positions. If your star's out, you're dead in the water. Because if you look at the schedules, Georgia and Alabama and Florida State have similar wins. Alabama and Florida both beat LSU. Florida beat them. Actually, it's a better win for them because they beat them when they were number 5. Alabama played LSU and beat them when they were 11. Florida State also has played Duke and Louisville when they were ranked. Hell, Louisville's still ranked. Yeah, Alabama beat Georgia. Okay, I'll give you that. Okay, but they beat Ole Miss. So they beat Ole Miss, Alabama, and Georgia. And LSU when they were ranked, but they were ranked 11th. I can't point to another quality win on Alabama's schedule. In fact, I can point to games that they struggled with. I don't see Auburn on this list of top 25. And it took Auburn screwing up on the last play for Alabama to win. I don't think that this is right. I don't think that this is fair. And this has put a scar on the committee and the validity of the college football rankings. Because gone are the days of the underdog story. Now you can only find that in the tournament. In the NCAA basketball tournament. Can't find that in college anymore because they want the money. That's all this is about, is they think that Florida State cannot hang with Michigan, Washington, and Texas. And that may be true. But we'll never know now. Any thoughts, Reese?
Well, I can't believe that I'm doing this, but I'm going to back Alabama on this one. And I understand that Florida State went undefeated, and it's sad to see that they got left out, but, there's only 4 spots, and, as we said earlier, it's not the college football playoff committee doesn't put, they try and find the best team in the moment. If their quarterback stays healthy, yeah, they're in. They're a lock. But, all their wins against top teams was with him. And then he gets hurt, unfortunately,
But
at the end of the season. And then their backup also gets hurt, and now they're down to a third string going into the playoff. I get that they're 13-0. I get that. But their top wins, most of their wins came with Jordan Travis. And like in Alabama, some games were close. They weren't all blowouts. And the third string quarterback didn't play well, and the committee tried to do it with TCU a year ago or a couple of years ago. They were undefeated. The committee put them in. Granted, they won a game, they made the national championship, and then Georgia just destroyed them. And then the committee looks this year at a Florida State with a third string quarterback. Do we put them in or not? Do we take that risk again, or do we just put like a team like Alabama in, even though they have one loss? They did take down the number one team in the country in the SEC championship
by 3 points.
Doesn't matter.
Florida State beat Louisville by 10.
That 16-6.
Still beat it by a better margin
impressive.
than Georgia. Then Alabama beat Georgia.
Who's better, Georgia or Louisville?
Well, we'll find out because Florida State plays Georgia in the bowl game. And if Florida State wins, that's going to look like shit on the committee.
I agree. I agree
and
to that
also,
point.
if Michigan steamrolls Alabama, that also looks like shit.
I agree with that point, but
I think either one they don't both have to happen. I think only one of those needs to happen for the committee to be made to be clowns.
And I mean, I feel for Florida State. It's just there's 4, and
I don't think Alabama deserves it.
I mean,
I don't think they do because they beat Georgia by a slimmer margin than Florida State beat Louisville. Okay.
Yeah, but
they have a loss on their record. Okay.
Yeah,
what else do you need?
They don't. I mean,
a third string.
Committee
I bet you Alabama will get in with a third string quarterback if they were Florida State.
I don't.
You know I'm right.
No, I don't think you're right, but because like Alabama, they controlled the game in Georgia. It's not like they came back, or it's not like they won on the final play or kicked the last second field goal. They controlled the entire game against number 1 Georgia, which Florida State struggled with their third string quarterback, which made the committee think that we don't want them in our playoff because it won't make money.
Which that's the only reason this is happening, and this is so stupid.
I agree. It is stupid. I agree with that. But it's the committee. It's how they do it. It's all about money. I feel for Florida State. I can't say that enough, but it's all about money and how much money they make on their matchups. Like, how much money can we make? And in Alabama, it will make Michigan, Alabama will make money. Washington, Texas will make money. Florida State with a third string quarterback, I don't know. And I feel bad for Florida State. I feel really bad for Florida State. But I don't know. In the committee's eyes, it just won't make money. I'm sad to say that, Florida State fans, but if you're coming in and you're a third string quarterback, you're facing Michigan. I don't know how that makes money when Michigan is most likely going to destroy you.
My feeling on this is obviously Florida State got robbed.
I agree.
And Alabama is undeserving of the playoff spot because they beat, like I've said all season long, they beat the weakest number one since the college football playoffs started. Because Georgia struggled with opponents they shouldn't have. Okay.
I think
so did Alabama. Florida State took care of business week in and week out. It didn't matter the situation. They lost their star 3 games with 3 games left in the season, and they still managed to win the final 3 games. Hell, they beat Louisville with a third stringer. You can't tell me that.
Yeah, but the thing is,
give them a chance.
Look good. I mean, that's what they did to TCU, and TCU got destroyed in the national championship. And I don't think they wanted.
That's fine, but they
to try
won
it again.
But they did win a game.
They did win a game,
which is a lot better than Florida State can do now because they can't even play for one.
I think the committee messed up one thing, and if they were going to leave Florida State out, they shouldn't even have put them in the first place. If they were going to take them out in the last week, they knew this was going to.
You want to know why this had happened? Honest to God, is because everything went according to plan. Michigan won. Washington won. They were going to put in either the winner of the Pac-12, either Washington or Oregon. One of them was going to make it. They knew that.
Yes.
They knew that they were probably going to put in like Texas. Okay. And they thought it was going to be Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and Texas. But Georgia had to lose. Georgia lost. So guess what? Now the committee has to make up some reason, because I don't think they ever intended for Florida State to be in.
Right, and that's the problem.
I don't think that was ever the intention. I think they just put them in to appease everybody because they were still undefeated coming into championship week.
Right, and
that was never the intention for Florida State.
Yeah, and that's
number one, win their championship,
mm-hmm.
and number 2, for Georgia to lose, because now you can't put in Georgia because they lost their conference championship. Okay,
right,
and so now the committee is like, "What the hell, Georgia? You didn't hold up your end of the bargain." And Florida State somehow continues to win. So now it's a mad scramble and excuse after excuse for why Florida State couldn't be in. They gambled the previous week with Florida State being 4, and they lost because Florida State kept winning, and Georgia didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and they ended up losing.
Okay, let me give you an analogy. Do you think they would put Iowa in if they went 13-0 this season? If we were the Florida State, do you think we would get in with no offense?
The answer is no. And the reason behind the answer is the same reason I'm angry with the Florida State. It's because the committee hates not sexy wins.
I agree.
They don't like the way football is meant to be played, that has been played for ages. They're part of the microwave culture that just likes the quick hit, the wow 35-31, wow, 27-24, wow, brand name this, brand name that. They like that. They don't like actual good football.
Right.
They like
Because
like brand names, and they like what makes them money, which is brand names, which is the culture
Exactly.
of this freaking country, and I absolutely hate it.
I hate it too, but I mean, I hate it too, but it's just the way it is, and hopefully the I don't know if the 12 team playoff next year will help that or not. We'll probably in like 10 years have to expand it again because they'll
Well,
leave somebody else out. And
but at this point, I mean, at this point, you're messing with greatness. At 12 teams, people being left out is like, well, you're mediocre at best. I mean, we have to put you in because we have to fill 12 spots, kind of thing.
yeah.
Anyway, whew, that was a lot.
Yeah, my adrenaline is rushing right now.
Right. So, real quick, Reese, we got to go through the bowl game slate. Saturday, December 16th starts bowl season. Georgia Southern versus Ohio in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Jacksonville State versus Louisiana in the New Orleans Bowl. Miami of Ohio versus Appalachian State in the Cure Bowl. New Mexico State versus Fresno State in the New Mexico Bowl. UCLA versus Boise State in the LA Bowl. Cal versus Texas Tech in the Independence Bowl. And then Monday, December 18th, you have Western Kentucky versus Old Dominion in the famous Toastery Bowl. I looked that up. That is a restaurant, Reese. Famous Toastery is a restaurant.
Wow, I did not know that.
I didn't either. Tuesday, December 19th, UTSA versus Marshall in the Frisco Bowl. Thursday, December 21st is the South Florida versus Syracuse matchup in the Boca Raton Bowl. Friday, December 22nd has Georgia Tech versus UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl. Saturday, December 23rd has Arkansas State versus Northern Illinois in the Camilla Bowl. Troy versus Duke is the matchup for the Birmingham Bowl. Georgia State versus Utah State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. James Madison versus Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl. Utah versus Northwestern in the Las Vegas Bowl. South Alabama versus Eastern Michigan in the 68 Ventures Bowl. Coastal Carolina versus San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl. And then on Tuesday, December 26th, you got Bowling Green versus a 5-7 Minnesota in the Quick Lane Bowl. Texas State versus Rice in the First Responders Bowl. Kansas versus UNLV in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Wednesday, December 27th has Virginia Tech versus Tulane in the Military Bowl. North Carolina versus West Virginia, in the Duke Mayo Bowl. The Louisville versus USC Bowl is the Holiday Bowl. Texas A&M and Oklahoma State in the Texas Bowl. On Thursday, December 28th, you have the SMU versus Boston College in the Fenway Bowl. Rutgers versus Miami of Florida in the Pinstripe Bowl. NC State versus Kansas State in the first ever Pop-Tarts Bowl with a edible mascot, I think. Right, Reese?
Yeah, that should be a sight to see.
Right. The commercials look, I guess, interesting.
Yeah, and the winning players will be able to eat it.
Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. It's like the Duke Mayo Bowl, where they pour mayonnaise on the winning team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something
crazy.
Something to see.
Also on the 28th, you've got Arizona versus Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. Friday, December 29th, you've got Memphis versus Iowa State in the Liberty Bowl. A home game for Memphis because it's played at Memphis. but that has happened to Iowa State previously.
Yeah, it has seemingly like every year.
Right. Also on the 29th, you have Clemson versus Kentucky in the Gator Bowl, Oregon State versus Notre Dame in the Sun Bowl, Missouri versus Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Let's see. Moving on to the 30th, we've got Ole Miss versus Penn State in the Peach Bowl, Auburn versus Maryland in the Music City Bowl, Georgia versus Florida State, like I said, in the Orange Bowl, Toledo versus Wyoming in the Arizona Bowl. Here we go, Reese. New Year's 6.
New Year's 6. Let's do it.
Iowa versus Tennessee in the Citrus Bowl, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Wisconsin versus LSU in the, ReliaQuest Bowl?
That's right.
Liberty versus Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. And the 2 college football playoff games, Alabama versus Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and Texas versus Washington in the Sugar Bowl. With the CFP Championship being Monday, January 8th. And so, Reese, looking through this plethora of bowl games, looks like you have a few matchups that you would be interested in. Obviously, we have the Iowa and Iowa State games.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like you have also starred the Alamo Bowl, Arizona versus Oklahoma, and
Yes.
which will be interesting. I'd like to star one real quick, just because I want to see what happens. The Louisville versus USC game, the Holiday Bowl, because Caleb Williams will not play that game.
Oh, that's big news.
Yep. He's healthy, right? It's a healthy scratch, right?
Yeah, I think he's just not playing.
Oh, for draft stock?
Probably. That would be my guess.
Yeah, that would be my guess too. Also starred on this list Missouri and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. That should be cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State leads matchups all time with Missouri by a big margin, but it's the first time they'll meet up since 1998. So,
first time in the new millennium, huh?
Yeah, and they're both
Crazy.
ranked in the top 10. So it might be a really good matchup.
Ole Miss and Penn State in the Peach Bowl is another star, because they have never played each other.
No, they have not. All the years playing college football, and they haven't met up once. Interesting.
That is very interesting. Obviously, we got to star the Georgia-Florida State game for a plethora of reasons. See what happens with the third stringer, see if the committee was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like even if they keep it tight with Georgia and lose, the committee's still wrong then at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia and Florida State haven't met since 1984. Is another reason to see this matchup.
No, yeah, a long time.
Yeah. And then obviously we've got the 2 playoff games.
Yeah, you don't want to miss those games.
Alabama leads the matchup against Michigan with a 3-2 record. So they played 5 prior games, and Alabama has beaten Michigan 3 times out of the 5. And then obviously the other one is Texas, Washington in the Sugar Bowl. And Texas leads that game, that series, I guess, 3-2. So they played 5 prior, and Texas has won 3 out of those. But yeah, we have a lot of college football bowl games on the schedule. We've broken them down, and we'll see if our analysis was correct. But for Reese, I am Devin. You've been listening to Sportsball Roundup Radio. Have yourselves a wonderful day.